Okay, everybody. I wish we had more time somehow. I'm realizing, boy, at least like one day for each chapter, and we're already a little behind. At the same time, I feel the need to clarify certain foundational things because it's going to give us the ability to look at these verses and understand them better. And I took note of something that yesterday when right at the very end where we said, okay, let's look at just pick a random verse and see if we can categorize it. And I realized we had trouble categorizing it, but that's on me because I hadn't taken the time enough to go through this. And so I want to take one step back and I want to look at this chart, this progression in clarity from duty to knowledge to wisdom to absorption and to love. And I want to make sure that we have this all down really clearly. Okay? You're with me now? I want, and again, this is something that I'll try to set as clearly as I can right now. And as we move forward, hopefully it will become reinforced and more clear. Duty, I think, is easy enough, right? Duty means what you do. I even thought about this a little bit. Duty means what you do. Knowledge means what you know. And wisdom means how you see things, right? It's a clarity of perception. Or let's say this, how you respond. Because see also means, sometimes see means respond. How do you respond to the world now? Have the way that you respond to the conditions, the external conditions in this world. And the Bhagavad-gita is often going to say hot and cold, honor, dishonor, victory or defeat. How the external world is moving and changing, how you respond to it, that's where your wisdom is tested, right? The two previous categories of duty and knowledge, you're not necessarily well prepared. You haven't necessarily matured to the stage where you can respond to the changes of this world in such a way that facilitates your deeper absorption, your deeper meditation, and ultimately the awakening of the divine love that's within you from the bhakti perspective. Does that make sense? Everybody got that? So what you do, what you know, how you respond, and then your ability to become fixed, absorbed, or as we're saying here, this unwavering meditative clarity. Then in that state of unwavering meditative clarity, when we speak of yoga like Ashtanga yoga, like Patanjali's yoga, this is so much of it is focused on this idea, right? This meditation that's held on one point. This is yoga. Bhagavad-gita speaks about it too. There's a lot of verses, and we're going to come across them, where Krishna is saying, think of me always, nitya, sanatana, be connected to me, always think of me, meditate on my form. He's going to say this a lot. Bring your mind to me with unwavering meditation. But how can you do that if the things of this world disturb you, right? Or if the things of this world elate you, or if the things of this world captivate you. It's not saying that we shouldn't be elated. It's saying we should always be elated, but not by the externals. But it should come from within, because that's dependable. The externals, we know. The one thing we can depend on the externals is that they're going to change. That's the nature of the material energy, is it's constantly in a state of change. So whatever yoga we're practicing, we want to turn within and connect to our nature that's within. And in Bhakti, we understand that when you really understand that, you understand that there's love there, right? And that love awakens, and that's the goal of Bhagavad-gita. So I wanted to go through each one of these a bit, and why don't we? Let me pause here for a moment. Questions? Any questions? How are we doing? Everybody's feeling like we're on the same page? Tell me if you are not quite there. I asked you to. I beg you to. Is that how I'm going up? No. Okay. All right. So then let's go ahead and check out the next slide. Oh, let's go to the next one. Duty first. Okay. This is easy enough, right? Here's a verse, a very famous verse. Let me shoot this a bit. a very famous verse about duty, maybe the most famous one in the Bhagavad-gita. Karmanya veda karaste mapaleshu kadachana. Karma pala heturbor nate sangostva karmani. You have the right to perform your prescribed duty. Here, the Prabhupada just translates it that you have the right. Maybe it would be a little easier for us to understand it. It's kind of saying, it's almost like saying you don't have the right to do anything beyond this. In other words, you do not, and when we say right, let's say qualification. You're not qualified, Arjuna, to walk away from the world. You don't have what it takes as a yogi. What you're qualified to do is to work in this world, to do your duty, right? That's what he's saying, right? You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, right? Prescribed because you've got a particular conditioning, and just like a doctor prescribes a certain medicine for a certain malady for a certain patient, similarly, recognizing your psychology, your attachments and aversions, you have the particular mentality of a warrior, and you have duty prescribed according to that. That's where you're at. You have a right to perform your duty. That's what you're supposed to do. But, and this is where it turns into karma yoga, but you have no rights to the fruits of action. Anything that you gain through doing your duty is not yours. Recognize that. This is where knowledge is being added, where duty is being informed. You're not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities. This is getting into jnana, knowledge at this point. I'm going to get into, I really want to define knowledge well, because I think that'll be the most important one. You're never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities. There's other more important causes that the result is dependent on. And that will be discussed later in the Gita. And never be attached to not doing your duty. Don't let go of your duty. You need to do your duty. Arjuna, let's get the microphone back to Arjuna.
Prabhu, I always interpreted that you have a right to perform as is it's my responsibility to perform. Is that a misinterpretation?
You could say it's responsibility. Certainly duty implies responsibility. So you could say it that way. But just all that I'm trying to bring the bring your attention to is this idea that the word adhikar is used here, which is most commonly translated as qualification. So he's saying if we put 10 people in the room, we'd say you're qualified to work in this world. You're qualified to give up your duty. In the third chapter, we're going to get into that. Who's qualified not to do karma yoga and just sit and meditate? Right? What does it take to do that? He's saying, Arjuna, you're obviously not there. Because look at the state of consciousness that you're in right now. You're all lamenting and confused and disturbed. When you have a mind like that, you can't just walk away from things. You don't have the peaceful enough mind. That's become clear. So what we need to do is engage your mind. Okay. Yes, let's get the mic to Zui.
Hi.
Hello.
Perhaps this is a basic question. It's not fully clear for me the concept of dharma, but this has a relationship with duty.
Does dharma have a relationship with duty? Yes. And sometimes the word dharma is translated as duty. And so they're different, especially there are two ways to look at the word dharma. That there are dharmas that we have that are temporary or relative. Like I may have one dharma and you may have another dharma. Arjuna's dharma was the dharma of a warrior. It comes with certain codes, certain responsibilities. But like say Sanjaya, that wasn't his duty. He wasn't out on the battlefield. He was an advisor. He was more like a brahmana. So he has different duties, different dharmas, right? Different what's expected of you to perform. But there's another way of looking at dharma, the eternal dharmas, the dharma that is not relative to the person, relative to the time. Because like even we have different duties at different times of our life. Do we have any mothers here? Mothers? Okay, mothers. So at one point in your life, you were not a mother. And you didn't have the dharma of being a mother. And then at a certain point that changed, right? And when you had that baby, did you feel like everything's changed now? I've got responsibilities that I never had before, right? And then when the children grow up, it's not that you stop being a mother, but the nature of that dharma changes a bit too. Sometimes the child now becomes responsible for the parent rather than the other way around, right? Now the child is taking care of the parent. Before it was the parent taking care of the child. So there's a change in dharma. So dharma may change according to the person, may change according to the time, the circumstances. It's relative. But there's an eternal dharma that every living being shares according to the bhakti yogis. And that dharma is? It's sanatana, meaning it's the eternal dharma. And what is the dharma of the self?
Loving servants of God.
Yeah, you could say to love, to serve. That every living being has that dharma eternally, it never changes. And the temporary dharmas, being a warrior, being a business leader, being a worker, being a brahmachari, a grihasta, all of those dharmas, the purpose of them is to help us uncover the eternal dharma. Okay, does that help? Yes, and Lisa.
Thank you. So I think this is why a huge question that I have about this is that the dharma of the warrior seems lesser than the dharma of being a grandson or being a family member that is involved in this conflict. So like I feel like the dharma of being like a loving family member would be more important than being a warrior.
Why do you see that contrast? So there's something in the Gita that has you. In other words, because Arjuna was speaking about the family. And all that?
Yes, yeah. Like
Oh, I see. So in other words, Arjuna is saying, "Hey, we have competing dharmas. You're telling me my dharma is to be a warrior, but what about my dharma as a grandson?"
right. Like that to me seems like the more important, like the more eternal love of your family versus your.
Okay, so this is a good
dharma
question.
warrior. Okay.
From the point of view of jnana, family relationships are illusion. Sorry. Right. Now, from the point of view of bhakti, it can give you a very beautiful way to engage in them. But if you have knowledge, you realize that I think that this is my family right now. But then a little time passes and we're separated, and then I'm born into another family, and I think this is my family. And then a little time passes and I'm born into another family, and I think this is my family. So the Gyanis, knowledge is saying, none of these are really your family. Now, from the Jnana perspective, from the Jnana Yoga perspective, generally the idea, or the Jnana Kanda perspective, we don't have that up here anymore. From the Jnana Kanda perspective, the idea is generally, therefore, walk away from it. And they become renunciate sannyasis, and they leave. They leave their family. It's illusion. Whereas the bhakti yogis, they say that it, and in a sense, what they're saying is the love that you feel for your family, that's illusion. As sweet as it is, you need to dismantle that in your mind. Dismantle it, see it for what it is, expose it for what it is. When that sweet little baby, little child's taking its first steps and it's waddling over to you, and it says, "Mama," cut that out. Snuff it out. That is illusion. Okay. Bhakti yogis don't say snuff out your love. They say that the love that you feel for this child, why do you feel it for this child and not others? You feel it because there's a connection there. There's a responsibility that you have on behalf of God to care for this particular child. And you get a kind of programming that's going to say, you are mine. Understand that that child is not yours. See that child in relation to Krishna. Love and care for that child as a duty to Krishna, on behalf of Krishna, that you perform. And then as you go deeper and your love for Krishna deepens, then the love that you feel for that child, you can begin to feel love for every living being. So don't snuff out the love, expand the love, actually. So, but going back to your original question, imagine if, let's go back to the context that we were speaking about the war in yesterday, and speaking about a police officer. If a police officer is at the crime scene and there's a criminal that's committing all kind of violent crimes, what if that's my son that's doing the violent crimes? Do I let them do it? Do I act as or say it's my father? Is my duty as a son more important than my duty as a police officer? I think everybody's gonna say the duty as a police officer is what you have to act on right now. Right? You can't let your father get away with murdering innocent people. You have to stop him. Don't act like a son. Act like a police officer. Okay, so that's what Arjuna is being asked to do. Make sense? Okay. Thank you. It's this world is difficult. This whole war was difficult. You really see that in Mahabharata when you see Yudhishthira. When the whole thing's done, Yudhishthira is inconsolable. He feels like everybody died so that I could be king. And Krishna himself is there. No, this was the right thing to do. It's hard not to go back and back, but where does the Mahabharata begin? What's going on? What is the context? This is the zoom out perspective. Are you ready, Lisa? The zoom out perspective is that Mother Earth was suffering. There was a plot going on. The Devas were also suffering. There was a plot where the Asuras, these really demonic beings that were powerful, they kept losing to the Devas in their battles. And they began to get this feeling that, because every time we're about to win, Vishnu comes along. And Vishnu ruins it for us. But you know where this Vishnu is getting his power from? The demon is never capable of saying he's the supreme. No one is above us. He may have a little more power right now. This is because something's going on. Well, we're going to figure this out. They become convinced that on the Earth planet, sacrifices are done. And those sacrifices are giving Vishnu power. All these priests, they do these sacrifices, and it's empowering Krishna, or it's empowering Vishnu. And the kings are the ones that allow these priests, they engage the priests in doing these sacrifices. We understand that that's what the king is supposed to do. He's supposed to get all the community together worshiping Vishnu, and that'll bring all auspiciousness. But the way they see it is, they're giving him power. It's like they're charging him up, like they're charging up his battery with this sacrifice. If we do this risky thing, if we take birth on Earth, we won't exactly be Devas anymore. We're going to be Earth beings. We're going to be really powerful Earth beings, though. And we will take birth within the royal families. And we will put an end to the sacrifice that's going on. So you have the Earth full of kings that are straight up demons. It may not be so different than the world that we're living in now. And the Earth takes the form of a cow, goes to Brahma and says, I'm suffering, these horrible men, these terrible leaders. I can't support this anymore. I can't bear the weight of this. And so Brahma says, we need to go to talk to Vishnu. Vishnu is asleep out on the ocean, lying on the serpent. You're familiar with this imagery? Yeah. And so they, through like telepathy, the Devas come with Brahma, Mother Earth is there, they're sending out the message to Vishnu, and Vishnu's sending the message back. Don't worry, I will come. And I will come along with you, Devas. We will all take birth on Earth, and we will rid the Earth of this horrible demoniac influence. So it's kind of a Star Wars type of thing going on. It's also Krishna's play. It's Krishna's Leela. Let us fight now. This is kind of part of what he enjoys doing. Because even those demons are ultimately his devotees underneath it all, if you go back far enough. So there's a Leela playing out in all of this. Krishna wants to fight. And he gets his friends together. Let's do it. And they're doing it for a good reason, to relieve Mother Earth, right? And so all this, this is all part of why Krishna's saying you need to fight, right? And that's part of what would a battle be if there weren't some challenge and, the whole arc of the hero, it involves that facing the challenge, the struggle, hearing wisdom, regaining your determination, fighting the battle. This is the way, is it Joseph Campbell or different writers and so on, they analyze the arc of the hero, the hero's tale or whatever. These are the elements of it. Where do they come from? We wouldn't say that this followed that. We would say this established that. It's established in these ancient texts. These are the first books, right? First stories. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Did William have a question?
Thank you. Although that was a really interesting. I'm miles away from where my question was now.
Okay.
Taking myself back there. With the jhana perspective,
Jnana.
excuse me.
Yes.
I was just thinking to myself, because if I've understood correctly, what they're saying is fundamentally is detach yourself from the world. Presumably don't be a father. When you see a child, it's not really yours. Don't attach yourself to the material world by engaging in those types of materialistic pursuits like having a family, etc. will just create more karma and da-da-da-da. Go off to the mountains. Well, surely, if we were to judge the philosophy by the maxim, do an action as though everybody else in the world would do the same action, then surely that defeats the jhanic perspective, because if everybody were to renounce parenthood, for example, and go and live in the cave.
That's an interesting question. And so just to give a bit more perspective to how this generally plays out. Sometimes people make a ladder, and it's true from one perspective, that you go from vikarma, and I think we mentioned this on the first day, where I want the things of this world without the Vedic teachings, without the recognition of the higher powers and all of that. You mature from that to the karma perspective, where now I still want the things of this world, but I want to do them, I want to approach them legally. I want to approach them thoughtfully. I want to approach them following the higher guidance, following the Veda, so that I can accrue good karma in this world, harmonious with the powers that be. And I evolve as a person from this reckless, ungrateful, childish, selfish mentality to like a more mature stage of materialism. And then from there, you go to karma yoga. From there, you say, you know what? It would be very hard for me to leave my family, but I can start to see my family life and my work life and begin to apply yogic principles to it, begin to apply knowledge to it, and begin to cultivate detachment within my family and within my workplace. Does that are we good so far?
Yes.
Okay. And then when I'm old, then when I'm 55, 60 years old, then I take sannyas, walk away from the world and practice jnana yoga, and then I find moksha. So this common is dharma, artha, kama, moksha. You do your duty, you do your dharma, you achieve artha, you get the blessings of this world and prosperity, wealth, and so on. Through that, you get kama, you fulfill your material desires, and then you renounce them and you achieve moksha. And that's the life, that's the life plan. That's like a standard Vedic life plan. So everybody potentially could do that, right? You have your children, you do your duty, you raise the kids, they're all grown up and they've taken over the business, and then you renounce and walk away. That's generally how it's practiced. Does that make sense?
Got it. That makes sense.
Okay. One difference, these are all big subjects and we could talk about them on and on, but one difference one thing that shows the holistic approach of bhakti is that with that, essentially we're saying, who is jnana open to? It's generally open to men Ladies don't so much walk away from the world like this. If they were to renounce, they would stay in the home. It would be hard enough for your grandfather, for the family to watch the grandfather walk away. They couldn't bear to watch the grandmother walk away. Who's going to take care of her? It's like that. So she might be very renounced in living at home, in a white sari, chanting all day, meditating all day, like that. But the man would be expected to walk away. And so that full-on Jnanic yoga path, it would be seen as, for men, it'd be seen as for old people. But bhakti is available to everyone at all ages, at all genders, at all times. It's like the child can practice bhakti yoga, jump around in kirtan and offer a flower to Krishna. And bhakti is universal, holistic. It's different on many different in different ways. But that was a helpful question, and hopefully it'll help us all understand this Jnanic path a bit more. Right? Arjuna is saying, "I'm ready now." Right? We see all the kings. If you read Mahabharata, if you read Srimad Bhagavatam, you read the Puranas, what do they all do? At the end, they walk away. We also see, actually, they're kind of just waiting for a young man they want a son. And as soon as that son, they don't wait to the very, it's like we got these leaders that are like in their 70s. No. You know, by the time the children are grown up, you're ready to walk away. Once they're trained up and able to handle it, you turn it over and you walk away. So we see these kings are eager to walk away. Therefore they're called Rajarshis. They're kings, they're Rajas, but they've been trained by the rishis. This is the whole idea, that the leaders need to be trained. They go to school and are taught by the sages. So they get these values, and they also get this this understanding that this life that I'm living of a king, I'm a politician, I'm just putting out fires and taking up responsibility. I'm getting all kind of wealth. I'm getting all kind of materialistic opulence, and I'm getting fame and reputation. I walk down the street, the whole world's looking at me, and I'm beginning to understand the emptiness in that. And I see the sages are the ones that are really onto something. So when will that day come where I can walk away from all this and go off into the forest? So that's generally something that comes later in life. But this is the picture of how the Vedic society works.
Can I quickly ask one follow-up
Yes.
question? So my understanding is one of the advantages of bhakti is you're able to infuse that end goal that we're all looking for in your everyday. AKA, I'm Krishna conscious as I'm navigating my reality. Does the Jnanic perspective have a similar?
Well, that's what karma yoga is that I'm going to infuse my work in the world with jnana, with knowledge. Is that clear? That is exactly what karma yoga is. I'm doing the same work as everybody else, the same karma as everybody else. I own a shop, I do this job, I help maintain my family, I do something for the neighborhood. Exactly like the materialist does. But the materialist does it, or even materialist, even from the Vedic materialist, the karmi, they do it, but they want results. They want to enjoy the results of it. Karma yoga is, I'm doing externally the exact same thing, but it's infused with knowledge and detachment of the jnani. So the karma yogi, the nishkama karma yogi, we're going to talk about that term soon. The nishkama karma yogi is a jnani. That's what Krishna is trying to convince Arjuna about. The nishkama karma yoga, the karma yogi, the person doing their responsibilities with knowledge and detachment, is just as much a jnani as the jnani that walks off into the world. If he actually has the realization. But sometimes you can see it as that ladder. In other words, you're applying and cultivating that knowledge, and when you have enough of it, you walk away. But really what Krishna is saying to Arjuna in the Bhagavad-gita is, these two people have knowledge on the same level. So one's working and one's not. Assuming that they have you see, the jnani can't walk away. He doesn't have the adhikara, as we're seeing in this book, right? Arjuna, you are not yet qualified to walk away, right? So there's an assumption that you can walk away only when you're qualified, only when your jnana has matured to the point where you have a peaceful mind, where you have true detachment internally, right? So therefore, you could say the jnana yogi is likely more advanced than the karma yogi. The karma yogi is still trying to get that up to the point where it can walk away. But really what Krishna is saying is that they can be equal. If you have the knowledge of, you can still be engaged in the works of the world and have just as much knowledge and detachment as the person that's walked away, as long as it's matured to that stage. That clear?
Yeah, I get it now.
And sometimes he's even going to say, the person that works in this world as they're obliged due to their duties, but does it with detachment, he is the real sannyasi and the real yogi. This is the beginning of the 6th chapter. It's almost like he's saying, Arjuna, take all the superficiality out of renunciation, all the pretentiousness out. If someone is renounced in working in this world, they're the real yogi, they're the real sannyasi. He uses those words.
Thank you. It's
thank
like meditating for 30 minutes a day, or being in that state as you navigate reality through mindfulness.
Yes, being in that stage as you navigate reality, having the full detachment as you go about your work, doing it not because you want to enjoy the results, doing it because it's the right thing to do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have another question? Oh, Verity.
You were talking about the education that the kings used to receive.
Yes.
Do the leaders of India today still receive a similar education?
You know, someone like Modi, I believe he's very familiar with it. I think he is like a brahmachari in that sense. I don't know so much about him, but I think he's a man that's very familiar with that idea. I'm not going to comment on how well he lives it or embodies it, but he seems to me as someone that's very familiar with it. It's something that's more alive in India. You know, there's books like the Panchatantra. You're familiar with this? It's kind of like Aesop's Fables, but it was kind of taught to the warriors, taught to the future kings. A warrior could be, he's a king of something. He may not be the king of the nation or the king of the state, but he might just be the king of the neighborhood. You know, like the police chief of the local neighborhood or whatever. That's what a kshatriya is. Every neighborhood needs a kshatriya. Every state needs a head. Every nation needs a head. And then there's an emperor that's like the ruler of all the nations. But that's why when the Pandavas, when they came out of exile and they tried one more time for peace, and they said, that Duryodhana was being advised and Dhritarashtra was being advised, give the Pandavas at least half of the kingdom so that they can rule and do their dharma. And he said, no way. And so then the Pandavas said, at least give each one of us a village. If we don't have, they were being so bending over backwards for peace. If we don't have at least a village to rule, we can't do our dharma. And you know what Duryodhana, what he replied to that?
Not even a pin.
Yeah, I will not grant them enough land, even wishing to put a pin. Okay, so that's like, all right. So whether you're ruling a nation or a little village, you would learn the Panchatantra, which was all these fables. But they had to do with like how to deal with conflict. Like there's these 4 ways how to deal with conflict, different ways to appease your enemy. Violence being the last one, right? That kind of conflict being the last one. There's ways we can see our leaders now, like
They don't read the manual.
they don't have anything. They have zero training in being a statesman, right? What is it to be a statesman, right? They have immature ideas of what it means to be powerful. Powerful means, and it's the rulers generally, the kshatriyas, they have kind of an aggressive nature, but that's tempered by the brahmanas. That's tempered by the brahmanas are there to say, okay, you know what? We don't need to resort to that. Maybe in the future, let's try other approaches first. So this was a system, right? A thoughtful system. But we could talk about that. We need to get to I appreciate this. One more question.
Thank you, Kaustubha Prabhu,
Thank
for
you.
all of your study and knowledge and
Thank you.
reflection, which has become realized knowledge so
There you
clearly.
go.
So you were speaking about for someone to be qualified to renounce, to leave. Is it they've cultivated a lot of knowledge, or have they reached that state of wisdom before they are qualified?
Okay. This is such important. Let's talk about what knowledge is, and then we'll ask your question again.
Okay.
Okay? Because this is what I want to become very clear. Because when we had that verse up there yesterday, it was all about knowledge. But what is knowledge? So now, I think you go back one. Okay, yeah. This is from the 13th chapter of the Gita. Maybe I will walk around now. Thank you. So, 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it opens, I didn't put this verse up here, but verse number 1, it opens with Arjuna asking a number of questions. What is the field and what is the knower of the field? What is knowledge and what is to be known? He asks these 6 questions. And Krishna begins to address them right off the bat, specifically speaking about what is the knower and what is the field of knowledge. What is the field and what is the knower of the field? Essentially what that means is the field Krishna is going to define as the body. But we should understand it means still more. It means the material world. It means Prakriti, everything that's made of material energy. And then there's the knower of the field. Because in one sense, well, let's just read it. Krishna says, this body, O Arjuna, is called the field. And one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. Who knows the body? The soul, right? The self, the soul. I have a body, and inside this body is me, the little spark of spiritual energy, and I spread my consciousness throughout my entire body. I know if my toe is itching right now. I know if my stomach is hungry right now. You understand? I know my body because my consciousness is spread throughout my body. You don't know my body. You don't know if I'm hungry right now. I don't know yours. Because my self has not spread its consciousness throughout your body. Clear enough? Yeah. Simple enough. But then Krishna says, O Arjuna, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies. And to understand this body and its knower, actually we have 2 knowers now, right? The self and the super self. The Atma and the Paramatma, is called knowledge. That is my opinion. In one sense, the entire universe is a body. And who is the soul of that body? Yeah, Krishna. You would say Vishnu, who is Krishna, right? So Vishnu is the soul who spread his entire body. His consciousness pervades every atom of the universe. So in one sense, the universe is a living body. Vishnu is the soul of that universe. And then that very soul of the universe, this is such a fascinating thing and something that the sages meditate on all the time. Think about this. The universe is a body. What keeps that body alive is Vishnu, who's the soul of that universe, and his consciousness, his awareness is spread throughout every atom of the universe. That soul then enters the body of every living being. So we all have the Vishvatma, the soul of the universe within our own bodies. That's a huge thing, people. that is a really big thing. And the yogis meditate on that. And they do Ashtanga yoga to find that Vishvatma within their own body. But we can speak to that Vishvatma, and that Vishvatma can speak to us. The soul of the universe can speak to us right in our own self. But he's saying the soul, the Atma is the knower, the body is the field, the soul is the knower of the field. I'm in all bodies, so I'm also the knower. And now we have 3 categories, right? We have the Jiva, who's one knower. We have the Paramatma, who's knower number 2. And we have the body, which now really the universe is a body too, right? So all the material energy is the third category. And he says, to understand this body, or you could even say the whole universe, all the material energy and its knowers is called knowledge, is called jnana. So we have three categories to understand. We need to understand ontologically what they are and how they relate to one another, right? Some people believe that there's no difference between the Atma and the Paramatma. Bhagavad-gita is not going to say it like that, right? We need to know that this is the origin of everything, God, the Paramatma. This, the material energy, is his energy. He's going to say this divine energy is very difficult to overcome, right? The jiva gets covered by this energy. He never gets covered by this energy. It's his and it's under his control, right? We are beyond this energy, right? We're eternal. This is constantly shifting, but we are prone to become covered over an illusion by this energy, right? That's preventing us from knowing and feeling our connection to this original energy, right? And so we need to somehow become released from the influence of this so that we can reconnect with this. So this is called jnana. This is called knowledge, understanding. This is constantly changing, constantly in a state of flux. This is steady, never changes. This is never changing, right? This may get covered by this, but underneath it never changes, right? This is called jnana, right? Jnana especially has to do with understanding the distinction between what is spiritual, what is material, right? That makes sense? What is truth? What is illusion? This is the illusory energy because it manifests in one form and then it changes and it's gone. It's like poof. It's like a dream. It's here one moment and then gone. Therefore, it's called the illusory energy. Does that make sense? Is a dream real? Kind of and kind of not, right? But like if a child has a nightmare, what do the parents say to the child when it wakes up? It was only a dream. It's not real, right? Whatever you were experiencing isn't real, but it kind of was real, but now it's gone, right? That's what this, here it says the body, but we could just say the material energy, right? That's what that energy is. It's constantly shifting, constantly changing. Here one moment, gone the next, right? Whereas this is steady, it never changes. This is steady, it never changes. This gets covered by this, at least it can. This never gets covered by it, right? This works under the energy, the direction of this, right? This can direct this in very small ways, you know, but no matter how small we control this, we become proud. You understand? All of this, you know, so like, what is jnana? You know, I'm not the controller of anything. I'm not the doer, right? I don't really control this very much. It controls me more than I do. I need to become free of it. This is called jnana. Understanding these three topics and how they relate to one another is called jnana. That's it. Is that more clear what we mean by jnana? Questions about that? Anyone? We good? Yes?
Hello. I said to be silent today, but I just feel that I have a lot of appreciation in the way how you explained all of this because it's so profound and you made something so complex, so simple in a way. And yeah, it touches me.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you
Zita.
so much.
I appreciate it. So, yes, great. Ginger. In the back.
It's not a question, but I just find this so interesting because I recently started learning about all these theoretical physicists that are starting to contemplate on whether or not consciousness is a fundamental building block of the universe.
That you see, that's exactly what we're saying is Paramatma and Jiva, or Paramatma and Atma, these are conscious by nature. They're irreducible. You can't break them down. All of this is going to come out in Bhagavad-gita So much of the Bhagavad-gita is on the Jnanic level. Because when you know the nature of the self, and you know the nature of this world, and then ultimately if you know the nature of God, you can free yourself. You can become free. Right? But without that, you tend to identify. This is the illusion. The jiva identifies with the body and thinks that's me. Right? That's illusion. Right? No, that's a whole nother category of energy. You're not that body. That body is just, and what's another part of the body that we tend to identify with? Subtle part of the body. The mind. Right? So the mind falls under the field. That's the body. That's the prakriti, the material energy. Right? You could say prakriti, sometimes the jiva is called the para prakriti, the superior nature. Right? So, or you could say Brahman. The jiva is Brahman and the para Brahman is the Paramatma. Like that. You could do different terms expressing the same things. There's a whole school of Vedanta where we would argue, and we could certainly use the Bhagavad Gita to argue strongly, that they make a mistake that they identify the jiva with the Paramatma. They say the jiva believes it's individual because of the illusion of the material energy, and in its awakened state, it realizes, I am the supreme. Okay. But Bhagavad Gita doesn't speak of it that way. Yes, Arjuna in the back.
Prabhuji, I'm just a little confused. I was reading chapter 7 this morning, and I thought that they said that the field was Brahma. Like it was Brahma, Paramatma, Krishna. Because the field
Would you like to, could you tell me a particular verse that you're speaking of?
It was chapter 7, the very first text.
First, like
yes,
4 or 5?
Yes.
Would you like to pull that up? These are important verses. This is Jnana. It's just laying it out. Ontology. What are the categories of existence? How do we understand them? Okay. Microphone. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. Was it not that? Well, let's look at these anyway. Okay. All that, I'm sorry. Where are you? Okay, up here. You can bring it down. Bring it back down. Okay. So we have 8 elements here. The first 5 are called the Mahabhutas, the 5 gross elements, right? Those that we can that are very tangible. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. Any physical thing is made up of a blend of these, right? Then mind, intelligence, false ego. This is called the antakarana, the internal instrument. Very subtle, still material energy, still constantly changing, right? Altogether, these 8 constitute my bina prakrita, my separated material energies. Maybe we could squeeze this window. Is it possible to get it more narrow?
What do you mean, sorry? Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, and drag that. Maybe that's not going to help. It's going to make it smaller. Okay, well, there we go. How's that? You can read it? Yeah. Okay. So that's the material energy. That's the field. That's what our bodies are made out of. That's what the universe is made out of. And then there's that which is perceiving the universe, which is perceiving the body, which is spreading its awareness throughout these fields. Besides these, this is called bina prakriti, separated material energy. Then he says there's a param prakriti. Right? Why don't we click on 5? And so that was this that we just read about. Yes? Clear? Bina prakriti, separated material energy. Besides these, O Arjuna, there's another superior energy of mind. Tasran prakritim vidime param. Hear from me about this param prakriti, superior energy. This is superior to that. Why is it superior? One, is because it's unchanging, and 2?
Superior.
Huh?
It's superior energy.
In what sense? You got 1, that it's like eternal or unchanging. Conscious. It's conscious, right? This has no feelings. Krishna's not interested in this energy, by the way. Right? He has no particular interest in it. Right? Offer me a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water. Right? And if it's offered with love, I will accept it. Right? He's not interested in the leaf, the flower, the fruit, or the water, actually, because it's made of material energy. He's interested in the love that it's offered with. You understand? Krishna has no interest in this. This is all created for us, right? Because we want to try to enjoy separately from him, we're given the illusory energy to play with, a body and a world to move around in. It's like a virtual reality. Krishna's not interested in the virtual reality. He's interested in the reality, okay? But he has an interest in this. He has an interest in a conscious soul, because love can be exchanged between the two and he can feel that. Make sense? Okay, so far we've heard about this in the previous verse: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. These are my separated material energies. Then he says, besides these, O mighty armed Arjuna, there's another superior energy of mine, a pada prakritim. Jiva bhutam mahabaho, O mighty armed Arjuna. Jiva bhutam, I'm talking about the jivas. Okay? Ye dung daryate jagat, who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. What are these people doing in their illusion state? Rather than looking here, which is their source, which is the very source of their bliss and their existence, who they're ultimately dependent on, they're looking here. They're looking to enjoy the material ingredients through their material body. That's where they're trying to find their satisfaction. That's them in their illusion state. Make sense? That's what's going on in the world. And then the next verse. Come down, please. Up. There we go. All created beings have their source in these two natures. We've got a soul and we've got a body. Right? Doesn't matter if it's me, you, another human, an animal, a plant. This is what they're made out of. They're their soul embodied within material energy. All created beings have their source in these two natures. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. Right? All of this is his energy. All of this is directed by him, whether directly or indirectly. A lot of times he hands off the responsibility to his empowered agents, either him in another form, like Vishnu, or another empowered jiva. Right? This is jnana. This is knowledge. Clear? Okay. Now, you were saying 9th chapter? This covered what you're looking for? Okay, good. Now we're talking jnana. There we go. Remind me of your name, please.
Eliana. Yeah. And how can everything be directed by the Supreme, but still that Krishna is not interested in the field? That makes sense.
Imagine if you were like the CEO of a company. You had more wealth than you needed. But you like to spend time with your loved ones, go on vacation with them and enjoy that loving relationship. Then you could empower someone to run your company, even though it all happens under your direction, right? So Krishna has only one interest. He's not interested in the workings of the material world particularly. There's no enjoyment within the material energy that he's interested in. But because we desire it, then he provides it, and he himself expands himself. And this is Vishnu, right? And then Vishnu ultimately develops and takes care of the material energy. First, that's the first stage of expansion. Then he also empowers other living beings, and these are the devas, and they look after it. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you. We're good? Okay, we're taking a lot of time on this, but I think it needs to be done. I just don't know how much we're going to be. I'm going to have to maybe from this foundation, we'll summarize larger parts of the Gita so that we can go through it. But if we can get this down, we're going to be able to read these verses ourselves and put them in context. Okay? All right. There's just one more thing if we're really going to get it. Okay, you ready? There's two schools of Vedanta. There's the Bhakti school, we can say Bhakti Vedanta. And then there's the non-dual school, we call that Advaita Vedanta. If you feel like you don't know anything about this, raise your hand. Okay, so maybe not quite half. And if you feel like I know something about this, but it's pretty cloudy in my mind, raise your hand. Okay, so now there's most people. Okay. The terms, we need to understand the terms. We just spoke of jnana as understanding three categories, right? And Krishna explains that he says this is jnana. But a lot of times when we use the word jnana, it's in contrast to bhakti. The idea in jnana is that we might call it mere jnana, or I don't know, limited jnana in a sense, because part of jnana means understanding who Krishna is. If you don't know that, you don't really have jnana. But the school of jnana, the common Vedanta school of jnana, as opposed to bhakti, is saying that the self and the supreme are one, right? And the material energy is entirely an illusion. Whereas the Bhakti school says the material energy is illusion in that it's real and it's eternal, but it's always shifting. And the distinction between the self and the Paramatma is an eternal distinction. It's maybe a little too much to get into now, but as we move forward, maybe we'll go back to this. Is that all right? I think better I move on. Let one thing sink in at a time. Yeah? Okay. Because sometimes, if I'm speaking strictly from the Bhagavad-gita perspective, when I say jnana, that's something everybody needs to have. But if I'm speaking from the schools, the competing schools of Vedanta, jnana, now I'm using the word jnana as speaking of a particular interpretation of Vedanta. It gets that label jnana as opposed to bhakti, right? And there's certain assumptions of what that entails, right? William.
I mean, I'd personally like you to continue here. I mean, if I think I know where you're going, it's dualism or non-dualism.
Yes, it's the distinction between dualism and non-dualism.
But it's like, for me, it's the frame from which I'm listening to everything. I'm thinking, where does bhakti come in here?
Yes.
You know, so I just thought I'd just share that.
Okay. Well, let me see if maybe I could do it very briefly. There's a verse in the Bhagavad-gita in the 7th chapter where Krishna says, Bahunam janmana ante. At the end of many births and deaths, many lifetimes, Jnanavan, the one who's attained jnana, right? So it's saying like you can practice jnana yoga for many births. And then after practicing for many births, Jnanavan, you become Jnanavan. You're the possessor of jnana. You've got the knowledge now. And what does he say after that? Jnanavan? Mam prapadyate, which means they surrender unto me. So when Krishna speaks of jnana, he's not speaking in the non-dual sense. He's saying when you truly understand what the world is, what your body is, what you are, and who I am, when you get it really clear, the natural response is you surrender to me, because you'll see I'm your shelter, I'm your support, I'm your origin, I'm full of unlimited bliss. Your bliss is in connection to my bliss. Your nature is my nature because you emanate from me. You're like a leaf and I'm like the root of the tree. We're connected by nature. Naturally, when you understand everything as it is, when you have the jnana, the understanding, the knowledge, you surrender unto me. So when Bhagavad-gita uses the term jnana, especially it's speaking in this way. But in the popular realm of discourse, if I walk into a bookstore that has books on Eastern philosophy and people that know about it, and I say, I want a book on jnana, they're probably going to give me a book that's saying that it's going to give a non-dual perspective. Jnana here now becomes the whole goal is with knowledge. You separate illusion from reality. You see this world as illusion. You see your individuality as illusion. You see all form as illusion. And that there is only one. I am that one. They use an analogy. Shankaracharya uses this analogy, who's like the most powerful Jnani spokesperson. And he says it's like, say I had a clay pot in my hand right now. Okay? Good sized clay pot. And it's like got a round shape. There's air within inside that pot. Yes? Mm-hmm. And the air takes the shape of the pot. So you could say the air is pot shaped. But they would say the air is not really pot shaped. If you crack the pot, you'll see the air was just always part of the one air. You see? So the fact that the air thought I'm pot-shaped was not really true. And as soon as you remove the pot, the air realizes I am the open space. I have no shape, no form. Form was an illusion. When you remove the illusion, then you realize I am the one. And so they argue that our concept of my own individuality is like that. I've taken the shape of a man, a woman, I'm black, I'm white, I'm American, all these are false. And when you crack that, and how do you crack it?
Knowledge.
With knowledge. When you understand I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, then you crack it, and then you realize I am one with everything. I am everything. There is nothing but me. You understand? That idea, that philosophy, that presentation is commonly called jnana. That's not what Krishna is speaking about when he says jnana. It's still knowledge of these same categories, but without these assumptions that are being placed there by Shankaracharya, who's kind of claimed the term jnana. Their idea is that all of our suffering is due to ignorance. We agree, right? It's due to the jiva identifying with the body, right? That's the cause of all our suffering. But they say the only way to counter it, what do you wipe out ignorance with? Knowledge. It's the direct antidote, right? They'll say bhakti is not a direct antidote. Devotion, not a direct antidote. It may help you move closer, but it's not going to do the job. It's not going to crack that pot. You understand? We say, no. Devotion is the fullest knowledge. And when you understand that by nature, I am the loving servant of Krishna, that pot cracks wide open. But you get a lot more. And really the whole pot thing doesn't work because I have a form. Form isn't the problem. Material form is the problem. Right? So these are, when we say jnana, the whole idea is that it's this cold, stoic discernment between what is real and what is illusion. The Bhakti Yoga also has that. They realize what is real and what is illusion, but they realize something more. So I think I hit a lot of it right there. We could go on a long time about that, but did that help?
I've got a million questions. I'll keep them out.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And Nandarani, can we get the mic to Nandarani?
I just want to say one thing on this whole topic of duality and non-duality.
Yes.
If Prabhupada used to say, I heard this from someone, if everything is illusion, if we don't have any individuality, right, like what you just explained, his simple thing was, give me your credit card.
I mean, Prabhupada had like a lot of different kind of like sayings. It just, the big question, there's so many problems with the non-dual. You see, the idea is, if I am supreme, right? If there's no distinction between Atma and Paramatma in reality, then how did the Paramatma, the Supreme God, become covered by the illusion? The illusion is its own energy. How did it get covered by it? How did we all get lost in this? And if I am the Supreme, why am I suffering? And they have a very weak answer for this. It's his Leela of the Supreme. But it's a misunderstanding of what Leela is. Leela is mentioned in the ancient text, in the Shruti, in these old, in the Upanishads and Vedanta Sutra. I think it's Upanishads that say that it manifests, the material world manifests because of Leela. But they don't understand what Leela is. You will read the 10th canto. You see, the 10th canto is the commentary on it all. It explains to you what Leela is. Leela is blissful. Leela isn't I have a toothache. Leela isn't I'm suffering depression. That's not Leela. Why is the Supreme suffering depression? That's not Leela. Right? And they'll try to cloud the whole thing over and use language. It doesn't really make sense. Whereas we can understand, no. In searching for its own separate existence from the Supreme, the illusory world is created, is presented for their adventure into illusion. And the individual spark, which is of the nature of the Supreme, but without all the power of the Supreme, it can become overpowered by the Supreme's illusory energy, right? And it suffers so that it might turn back and reconnect. This is a consistent philosophy. I'll leave it there. But I will also take Verity's question. It's okay.
I heard the term jnana in another context, and I wanted to ask you about it.
Okay.
Like the type of love of God, like jnana bhaktas, siddha bhaktas, prema bhaktas, prema para bhaktas. Is there like even more subtlety to jnana as a term?
You see, that is, where's that from?
Brihad Bhagavatamrita.
From Brihad Bhagavatamrita. I don't want to comment on that because I'd have to go back and look at it again. But my assumption is that it's bhakti blended. There's a term, jnana mishra bhakti, that you're performing bhakti, but there's still some motive that I want released from the material energy. So that it might be speaking about that. But I'm familiar with it, but I've read it and I have to go back and study it more. Okay. Shall we turn to the second chapter? Oh, why don't we go back to that, the blue? Yeah, okay. So we have duty. We know a bit about this, right? And now we know a bit more about jnana. We can see now, I may have all this, everything that I just said is conceptual. I may know it. I may know the relationship between, I know that the Supreme, that both the jiva and the material energy are the energies of the Supreme, right? I may know that the jiva has the potential to become covered by the material energy. I may know that the material energy is constantly in a state of flux. I may know that the jiva is eternal and stable, as well as the Paramatma. This is all jnana. I may know all of this theoretically, right? Therefore, I know I'm not my body. I know I'm not my mind. It's conceptual clarity. Conceptual clarity. But I may not have been transformed by that yet. So I'm informed, but not necessarily transformed. Okay? And I said these two stages are relatively easy to come by. But for that conceptual clarity to mature within me to the point where it's fully integrated in my thought, in my response, in my perception, in my reaction, that can be a lot of work in life. And that's where we mature it into wisdom, right? And when you have that, you become very peaceful. You're no longer attached. You know, you don't have a disturbed mind, you have a peaceful mind, right? And in that peaceful mind, we can enter into absorption where we get unwavering mental clarity, and then something can awaken. Then when we chant that name, there's potential for it to have a tremendously powerfully transformative power within us. Yes.
So that work,
Yes.
you know, between knowledge and wisdom, that's hearing, chanting, practicing bhakti, reflecting, having mentorship, having a guru, like that.
All of that. But I want to say something more because it's important. In the way that you just phrased it, just further confirmed my need to address it. Yes, it's work, but it's not only work. What else is it? Grace. Yeah. It's grace. So they say God helps those who help themselves. You know, in South India, in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, in this ancient bhakti lineage, there's two camps actually. There's two groups of, one of them is centered in Srirangam, and the other is centered in Kanchipuram. But they're from the same lineage, but they just have a bit of a different emphasis, right? So that happens. And one of them is called the monkeys, and one of them is called the cats.
Really?
Have you heard this before? We've spoken about it on the show before. So one of them, their belief, their emphasis is that the most important thing from getting from there to there is your effort, your work, really applying yourself to all the things that you said, you know, the reflection, contemplation, the study, the service, the seva, all of these, your rituals, all of this, applying your effort to achieve that state. And the other camp is saying it's all about grace. You get blessed so that you can enter that stage. Which one is the cats and which one is the monkeys?
Second one is the cats.
Second one, which was it's about grace? Yeah. Yes. And why is that?
Because they love to be touched and
Go ahead. No, I'd like to hear. You're saying?
Yeah, I think the monkeys, they have to work hardly to get feed, and the cats, they get feed by the grace of humans.
Okay, that's an idea. It's not the one that they had, but it's a good one. No, you have to look at how they carry their children or how their children are carried. How does the mother monkey carry the baby monkey? Yeah, underneath the baby monkey latches its arms and legs underneath the mother. And the mother runs, but the baby is hanging on by its own effort. Whereas with the cat, yeah, they just pick you up right there and they carry you from here with no effort whatsoever on behalf of the baby, right? So it's one lineage with two different emphases. You know, one group is emphasizing one group is emphasizing the other. But for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, for the followers of Sri Chaitanya, what do we say? It's both. It's your effort and it's grace. And we can't forget that. We have to be clear. This isn't just based on our own effort, but it requires our intense effort. We should be ready to really put in our effort and be begging for grace at every step. Okay. All right. Why don't we go through these blue dots quickly now? Oop. So duty, we already did this verse. Knowledge. Now let's look at this verse again, which we had trouble categorizing. Or was it? No, it wasn't this verse. Dehinosmin yatadehe, as the embodied soul passes in this body, right? Now we have those two categories, right? Already two of the three. Jnana is all about those three categories, right? The Paramatma, the Atma, and the material energy. And so notice, right off the bat, two of the categories and the nature of the relationship have been mentioned. As the embodied soul, that's one category, continually passes in this body, that's another category. Right? From boyhood to youth to old age, the material energy is changing. The soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So we see how that fits under the knowledge, under the jnana. But look at that last line. There's a hint there. Wisdom, exactly. Right? A sober person is not bewildered. Most of us, it can terrify us. We're growing old. It can frustrate us. There could be fear, frustration due to that change. A sober person, a person with wisdom, they're not bothered at all. I'm growing old. I'm okay. I'm at peace. You see that? See the elements of both? Does that make sense? Anybody not quite get what I just said? If not, please raise your hand and we'll take more time with it. Everybody got it? So primarily this verse was about jnana. It's a verse that's laying out jnana. And then Krishna says, the people that are wise, they get all this and therefore they're peaceful. Dhira, right? Shanti. They got a peaceful mind. They're unbewildered, sober, right? They're fine with it. Make sense? Mm-hmm. We're good? Yeah. Click? Yes. Okay? Yes.
So back to my question earlier, is that person then qualified to become a renunciate?
Now you're getting there. Now you're starting to get it. You don't have to. And this is an important point. Yeah. The Shankara's team is saying you have to. You have to walk away. Krishna and Bhagavad-gita is saying you don't have to. But now you're qualified. You could, if you have a peaceful mind. Right? Yes. Good. We're things are clicking. I see it. They're clicking. Okay, great. All right, let's go to the next one. Wisdom. This is clarified perception. I'm seeing through this knowledge now. Right? It's a filter through which I see and perceive everything. I'm transformed through integrated knowledge. I'm clear. I'm peaceful. This is a wise person. Before giving up this present body, before death, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and happy in this world. We see that? The material things don't bother him anymore because he sees it for what it is and it's become fully integrated. So therefore, he's at peace. He's well situated. He's happy, right? He doesn't feel like I need to change the externals. I won't be happy until something in this world has shifted. He's come to terms with the external world is always shifting. And he's at peace with it. Make sense? Clear? That's the wise person. Good? Yeah. I need to hear it loud and clear. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then absorption. Unwavering meditative clarity. This would not have been possible without having first achieved the stage of wisdom. Right? This would not have been possible because there would always be something external, some change, some shift, or some need for shift. Right? Because I'm identifying with the body, I need to make sure my body is comfy and cozy and satisfied. Right? Because I'm identifying with my family, I need to make sure that my family is satisfied. Because I'm identifying with my nation, I can't tolerate an insult to my nation. Right? We just heard about tolerance. Let's go back again. Before giving up this present, but if one is able to tolerate, right? The wise person is naturally tolerant, right? The person that hasn't developed wisdom can't tolerate and needs to change things, needs to change externals. All right, back to absorption. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance. Now that they're not being bewildered, attracted, or disturbed by externals, they're able to go within. As long as you're attracted to or disturbed by, attracted or repulsed by the externals, your awareness will always be drawn without. When you become content with everything external, you can finally go within. It makes sense? Logical? Clear? Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying pleasure within. We're searching for pleasure, but the question is, am I searching for it externally in the energy that's constantly shifting, or am I searching for it internally, right? In the energy that never shifts. Clear? Okay, such a liberated person, right? He's liberated from all the ups and downs that the material energy become free of that. I'm not going through ups and downs anymore. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always entranced, enjoying pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness. It's not limited by time. It's not limited by any external thing that's eroding, right? For he concentrates on the supreme. Right? That never changes. Yes, Paul.
This is the question I had yesterday, but I know it was too early yesterday. Is this where bhakti would begin? And absorption? True
Yes.
bhakti.
Yes. This is where bhakti, let me put it this way. Because you can now deeply become absorbed in any facet of Krishna, whether it's his name, his form, his pastimes, his qualities. In the past, you would try to bring your mind to that, but you couldn't really absorb it. Now you can become deeply absorbed in it. Trinadapi sunichena tador iva sahishnena amanena manadena kirtanaya sada. Always absorbed in Krishna's name, right? Otherwise, I'm trying to chant and my mind's going here and my mind's going there. Now the potential for the sprouting of bhava and prema is of course, it's always by grace, but now you've created the very favorable setting for you to receive that grace. Otherwise, even the grace is coming, it's bouncing off you because your mind is over here and your mind's over there. So this is a very powerful potential place for powerful spiritual growth now to happen. And Bhagavad-gita is instructing us to come there. Get yourself there. As bhakti yogis, we should be saying, what am I holding on to that's preventing me from getting over here? Right? And at this pace that I'm going, will I have the amount of time in this lifetime to get there? I got to think about that. I need to start letting go of these things now. Right? Okay, thank you. And then finally, love. Clarity illumined. Now you have this clear cylinder of water, right? And now whatever you place in there, you can see it. What is the bhakti yogi placing in there? Krishna's name, Krishna's form, right? How do we do it with his form? We could put the deity there, right? With his name, we could put the mantra there, right? His pastimes, how do we put his pastimes there? We read Bhagavatam, right? So his name, form, qualities, pastimes. Now I bring my mind there, and it's like they're fully illumined, right? I can keep focus on it, right? It's not like there's muddy water and it's hard to experience the beauty of his form, the bliss that is his name. I'm not tasting it, right? Now it's clear, right? So, fully awakened in love. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. They're not distracted to the mud, to every other distraction that could potentially be floating through the awareness, right? The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service. They derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Okay? That's the progression that we're talking about. How does that work for everyone? We're good? Yes, Kat. Speaking of cats.
Can you describe a little bit of the kind of selfish nature of this from an outside perspective, of like the highest realm you can achieve is if, from Krishna's perspective, you think of me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
And yeah, I just want to unpack that a little bit.
Okay, that's fine. And that's a very good question, a very important question. And I mentioned yesterday that in the 9th chapter, Krishna says, now I'm going to share with you the most confidential knowledge. And I'm going to share it with you. Why? Do you remember? Because you're not envious. So when I tell you, meditate on me, think of me, surrender your life to me, you're not going to be thinking, oh, this is just another narcissistic creep. You know, that is like, if the root of a tree were looking at a leaf that had fallen off, let's say leaves could just plug right back in. So I was looking at a leaf that's suffering there and drying up. And the root says, and maybe the leaf is saying, I think I need to connect with another leaf, or I don't need any other. I'm fine on my own. If the root were saying, no, you're drying up and you're going to dry up more, reconnect to me, right? Not any other. You won't be able to do it by trying to connect with any leaf. Connect to the root. Reconnect with me, and you'll become vital again. You'll be vitalized. You'll be permeated with life. Would it be egotistical for the root to say that? You understand? Because ontologically, the leaf is dependent on that root. Krishna is saying, ontologically, every living being is my energy. So reconnect with me. And I wanted to share, you see, the Bhagavad-gita isn't going to cover enough. And that's why Vyasadeva, even though he had written Bhagavad-gita, he was still not fully satisfied. And his guru told him, no, you got to tell him all about Krishna's leelas. Because when you hear Krishna's leelas, you begin to understand, he's not that egotistical person. He wants to serve his devotees. He would rather take the position of the leaf. He says the leaf is enjoying life more than the root. He looks at Radha and says, what she experiences, loving me, is even greater than the feeling of being loved by her. I want to become a devotee of Krishna myself and see what her because that's the superior position, right? If a parent were to say to a child that had wandered away from home, come home, I can take care of you. You could go to anywhere else and you can find danger, but I will provide everything for you. All you need to do is come to me. Come back to me. Is that egotistical? It's an expression of love. And so when Krishna is saying all these things, it's an expression of love. And it's not just that we derive that out of it, he says it clearly. Let's go to 18th chapter, text 1865. But you can just get to it by just keeping the whole chapter open. Maybe we can go back a little bit further. Hold on. This text 61, the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna. I'm in your own heart. He's already defined himself as being in the heart of everyone. And I'm directing the wanderings of all living beings who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. O Arjuna, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace, you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. Thus I have explained to you, this is the very end of the Gita now. Thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential. He doesn't say you have to do it. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. And then always think of me. Become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. Take all of your yogic awareness and focus it on your very source, your loving source, and you will reconnect. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. This is how it needs to be understood. And when you read Bhagavatam, you begin to see just how sweet he is, just how he has no nature of exploitive nature. On one hand, he's very detached in letting us just wander. He doesn't say, I'm jealous. Earlier in the Gita, he's going to say, if someone wants to worship the devas for the material things of this world, I will encourage them within the heart to do that because it's a step forward. He doesn't say, I'm a jealous God, and if you don't worship me, you go to hell forever. So what you really have to understand his nature. And that's why when Krishna says to Arjuna, I'm going to share with you this stuff now, because you're not envious. When you hear it, you won't have an adverse reaction to it. Otherwise, I wouldn't say this. I would give you the Upanishads, where I speak about myself in a very abstract way, right? But because you're not envious, I'm going to speak to you really directly. I'm a person. I love you. And if you turn back to me, this will be the best possible thing for you. You'll reconnect to me. It's up to you. But I'm telling you as a friend, because I love you, reconnecting is the best thing you can do. Is that okay? All right. All right. Yes. We still haven't gotten to the first verse in chapter 2.
Thank you. So from this model, which I love so much, that you've gleaned from the Gita,
Okay.
from duty to love.
Yeah.
And you can answer this at another time if it does.
Why don't you put that slide back up there, Verity? The one that shows all the different stages.
The 9 angas, the 9 stages of bhakti.
Yes.
So, as someone who is tends to be an endeavorer, right? So I'm trying to also allow for grace and mercy. But what was coming to mind for me is it the first 7 angas are really happening between this duty to wisdom and then until we reach that state of bhava?
Well, you see,
or does that not apply?
Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Here, a chant about Vishnu or Krishna. Smaranam.
Mm-hmm.
What is smaranam? Remembering. What's another word for smaranam? Meditating.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's one that requires this absorption.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So even right there, of course, the other two should all be done with absorption.
Right.
But smarana is one this becomes a big deal within Gaudiya Vaishnavism, because there are schools, even within our own lineage, there are people that will say, smarana is the way. That's the Siddha Pranali. Right? Smarana means, it means remembrance or it means meditation. But specifically what they're saying is meditate on you serving Krishna in the spiritual world in a spiritual form. Smarana. Right? That's the way that you achieve Goloka Vrindavan. Whereas Sri Chaitanya didn't exactly say that. That it's not that that's not valid, but especially Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and especially Bhaktisiddhanta and then Srila Prabhupada, they said, they wanted to clarify something. They thought our lineage had got a little confused. And they go back to the Goswamis to establish that trying to perform smarana without the qualification, right? Kamanya Veda Kariste Mapaleshu, right? If you don't have the peaceful enough mind, you can imagine yourself in the spiritual world all you want, and you're getting nowhere.
Right.
So it's not necessarily like that. Even
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Good question. And William.
Is that the reason why other lineages have more emphasis on the rasa?
Other lineages. Our lineage is
The
very
gold
rasa.
limit. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
No, I think you're answering. Thank you.
Okay. I was speaking about other branches within our own lineage when I was saying that.
Yes.
And they sometimes they'll there's a whole lot to talk about here. And it's such a broad and important conversation. I couldn't really do it justice. But let me just say that the topic of the prema of the gopis is as esoteric a topic that exists, and as sacred a topic that exists. And some of our acharyas thought that it's sometimes being taken cheaply. You can't just put yourself in it. You need to become purified, and the method for that purification is the chanting of Krishna's names. That within this Mahamantra, there's the potential for all of that Vraja Prem, Gopi Prem, all of that to awaken in one. But to think that I can just meditate on myself in that Leela right now, in the condition that I'm in, that is likely for the majority of people taking it too cheaply. Nityananda instructed Jiva Goswami, and we can read about this in the book, the Navadvita Mahatmya, by serving Sri Chaitanya, who is Radha and Krishna, in the mood of dasya as a servant, then the mood of madhurya rasa of Radha for Krishna becomes revealed to one. And so there's a question of approach. And there's the idea that our lineage had kind of lost it even lost its reputation in the world in the minds of worldly people, because it was seen as, what are these people getting into? Sitting and pretending that they're gopis in Vrindavan, and a lot of times they weren't manifesting even noble, dutiful, moral behavior. Right? They're thinking, oh, I've transcended everything, and so on. So there's a history to that. But too much to talk about right now. Yes, Verity.
Similarly to Kurogovi's question, could you contextualize the evolution in clarity with like the sequence of advancement, like Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana, Anartha, Nishta?
I suppose I could, but I don't want to claim that these are like, they all lock right into place or anything like that. But if one can come to the stage of, for those that may not be familiar, there's another model of evolution. It's a model of evolution, right? That's provided in our shastras, in our sacred texts, that says that it's following the growth of faith and the growth of advancement in bhakti. And it begins with faith, that there's a spark of faith. And that faith is commonly just like, oh, these devotees are good people and they're onto something here. I get that. So that's the birth of one's faith, shraddha. And then from that, one generally associates with devotees. And that faith grows. And that stage is called sadhu sangha, right? Taking the association of sadhus, of other devotees. And when that starts to mature, one says, I want to become one of these practitioners myself. And then one comes to the stage of bhajana kriya, which means now I get a guru, I get instructions, and I begin to follow the practice instructed under the direction of a guru. And so I start to perform my bhajan, my worship in this way. And through that one becomes purified, and one passes, and this may be that long, if we wanted to say that long stretch from knowledge to wisdom is something like that long stretch through anartha nivritti potentially, right? That the anarthas within me, the unwanted facets of my awareness, the lust, the greed, the envy, the pettiness, the resentfulness, all of these things, I need to let go of them all, right? And I could come to a stage of clarity called nishta, where I'm fixed, where I'm no longer wavering one day to the next in my focus. And so now we're getting to some kind of steadiness, that unwavering, we're talking about unwavering here. And from that stage, because your clarity is there, when you chant that name, I was saying, like, we've been speaking with a visual metaphor of saying, like, seeing through this cloudy, could I see a form of Krishna within that cloudy water? Now it's becoming clear as everything starts to settle, and I can become absorbed and perceive it clearly and connect with. But another metaphor is taste. Do I taste this name when I chant it? And the stage after that, nishta, after being fixed, steady, is ruchi. I can begin to taste. Whether it's the name or hearing Krishna's lila, I begin to really, it's sweet, right? And then the next stage is that sweetness becomes like addictive. And it's called the shakti. And now that's all I want. And from that comes bhava. And bhava is the sprout of prema, and then prema. So I think potentially all of those could happen quickly at the end. So I think you could see a connection that way. Yeah, thank you. Shall we approach, in our last 20 minutes, shall we approach the second chapter? Maybe we can go through it quickly now. Let's go ahead and pull up the outline that I have for the chapter. Skip that. Chapter 2. Okay. Verses 1 through 9 are more of Arjuna's confusion. I don't think there's a need to read them. You can read them, or you've read them yourself. But Arjuna Krishna says, Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? You're a warrior. You're Vedic, you've been a courageous follower of Dharma your whole life. This is not the kind of, right when your responsibility comes up, that you start talking about walking away from it. This isn't what I expect from you. And he says, this kind of mentality, it doesn't lead to the higher planets. What kind of consideration is that? What division of the sacred text would that come from? The karma kanda, right? This idea that I want to go to the higher planets and enjoy, right? So Krishna gives him a little something from the karma kanda approach there. And he says, then he speaks a bit from the Jnanic approach. You're lamenting over what is not worthy of lamentation, right? Why are you lamenting over something that's temporary, right? You should be free of that. Someone that's got some knowledge, some jnana, they're not emotionally so affected by the changes of this world, right? They have steady minds, right? Yeah, of course people die. It happens every day, right? We're seeing death everywhere, right? And you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off, confused and disturbed, right? Why are you lamenting over what's not worthy of lamentation? Right? It's a little stoic, a little cold, because men that he loves are about to die. But he's sharing that Jnanic perspective, right? And then he really gets into it. That was just the introduction to the Jnana. And we have text 10 to 30, which is the Jnanic viewpoint. Let's pull those texts up. 10 to 30, okay? He's going to say, I'm going to appeal to you on the level of Jnana and see if you can detach yourself and get your head together, right? Stop being so confused. Text 11. While speaking, let's go to text 12. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings on this battlefield. We're all eternal. Never in the future shall any of us cease to be. This is straight jnana. As the embodied soul passes through this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at the time of death, right? Get sober, right? Understand this knowledge, right? Every soul is passing through different bodies. That's the way this world works. But the soul, look at the soul, it's eternal. You've passed through many bodies in one life, but you've remained the one observer of the different bodies, of the different mental states. You are that unchanging observer within, just like every other warrior on this battlefield. We're all eternal. You seem to have lost touch with that. And when you know that, you can begin to tolerate all the changes in this world. Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. With knowledge comes detachment. With gyan comes vairagya. So he goes on to say, Arjuna, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress. Of the three categories, Paramatma, Atma, and material energy, what is he talking about here? What category? The material energy, right? This is jnana, analyzing these three and the differences and the distinctions between them, right? The non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of the winter and summer seasons. We know winter is going to come, and then we know that it's going to change, right? Don't think that the material energy is ever in a permanent state. It changes like the weather, right? They arise from sense perception, right? Contact of the material senses with the material energy, right? And one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed, right? He's trying to say, come to the wisdom platform. Come to that steady platform. Make sense? We're looking at now we're talking two lenses, the karma jnana bhakti lens and the other clarity lens, 5 stages of clarity. We're good? Navayogana, good? Okay. So recognize that you're eternal even though the body's always changing. When you recognize that, you should be able to tolerate difficulties in life, knowing that they come and go. That's you come to terms with that. If you don't come to terms with that, you're always disturbed. If you come to terms with that, you can pass through any state and be undisturbed. Right? That's like wisdom of elder people. Sometimes older people, they kind of realize this is the world. Why am I always resisting it? Why am I always becoming disturbed by it? I've come to terms with it. Yes, I'll get the mic back to Arjuna Prabhu.
I just have a question about this stuff because, you know, we have a saying, self-knowledge avails us nothing. You know, it's like I understand it intellectually, but how do I connect the dots? Like, okay, I'm not this body, but how do I rip the feelings out of that? This idea that, you know,
How do you mature that knowledge into wisdom?
Yeah.
That has a lot to do with reflection. It has a lot to do with living according to it and reflecting on it as you go through life. And it matures. For instance, I'm not my body. I'm not my mind. I know that. And again, that is conceptual clarity. And potentially nothing but that. As you just said, it avails me of nothing if that's it. But, you know, I step onto the subway and someone bumps into me, right? They took their body and bumped it into my body. And I become disturbed, right? What goes on in my mind? What a jerk. So inconsiderate. I've been disrespected. It was uncomfortable and it was disrespectful. They should be more careful. Okay, my mind is disturbed now, right? But what if at that point I reflected on what the Bhagavad-gita, I reflected on the knowledge, right? I'm walking through a world that's operating under the law of karma. My experience that I just went through is something I was destined to experience due to not that person, but due to my own previous activities.
Okay, so that's a great technique. So you would anchor yourself to a...
That's going back on the knowledge and reflecting on it at that pivotal moment. It's like nowadays people like to say this was a, what's the term they use? A learning opportunity. Is that how they phrase it? Yeah. A teaching opportunity or something like that, right? Like that was a learning opportunity, right? It's a teachable moment, right? This is a teachable moment. Let me reflect and let the Bhagavad-gita teach me right now, rather than just in the classroom or at home, right here on the battlefield, right? Let me apply this, reflect on this knowledge and let it go. And you do that 1 time, 2 times, 10 times, 100 times. It starts to become the lens that you see the world through. Do it 1,000 times, right?
So this would be the appropriate text to anchor that to, yes? Like when I'm upset, someone cuts in front of me in the line, or I'm not this body.
Absolutely.
Or my parents are going to die. This would be the text.
You might go right to this text. You might go to other texts. But yes, through reflection, this knowledge can gradually mature into wisdom. Jnana becomes vijnana. But I also want to say that there's also grace, right? There's also grace. It's both of these. So one yogi may say, do exactly what I said, and another may say, Krishna, in my own heart. Why do I still become upset by this? Please become illuminated in my mind and heart, right? Please don't leave me stuck, seeing the world through this confused computer of my mind, programmed to perceive this as an insult. Please please rise in my awareness so clearly and with such luminosity that nothing of this world disturbs me. When you've arisen in my awareness, how could anything in this world disturb me? That's Gyan, but it's more than Gyan, right? So the Bhakti Yogi, all of this is all part of it, you know? Think of me always. Krishna says, Mam anusmara yujacha. Think of me and fight, right? So there's also that Krishna factor, that remembering Krishna is the most powerful form of reflection, right? So it's the Gyan, it's the Bhakti, it's all here for the devotee. The Gyan is supportive of the Bhakti, knowing about karma, knowing about the temporality of the changing material circumstances is favorable for my remembrance of Krishna. So in this way, knowledge can mature into, knowledge can mature into wisdom. Okay? All right, and now he's going to just go through an onslaught of important verses. The person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. You can become free. Right? Without that, you're not going to become free. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there's no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there's no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. This is straight up jnana, right? Two categories never change, the self and the super self. One category is constantly changing. That category is, in a sense, unreal. Not that it doesn't exist, not that the energy doesn't exist, but it's here one moment and then it changes, and whatever form it has is gone forever. In that sense, it's unreal. Recognize the two. This is jnana, pure, straight up jnana, this verse, right? And then there's more verses that talk about the body, how it's like we change them like we're changing clothes, how you can't cut it, you can't burn it, this is jnana. So from here to text 30, we get that kind of teaching. Make everybody clear? You understand how it's jnana? Okay. We got 5 minutes. But I want to cover the next section so that when we come back tomorrow, we can pick up on the fourth section of this. Thank you. Apparently, all of this talk about how to tolerate the temporary changes in the material energy, the circumstance that you're in right now, Arjuna, tolerate it, right? Yeah, things are better before and they're worse now and they're going to get better in the future. It's like the changing of the seasons, right? But Arjuna didn't say, oh, you're right. You're right. What am I doing here? He didn't respond that way. All the people that are going to die, well, we're all dying, right? And we shift bodies and we take on new bodies and it's nothing to lament about, right? Oh, thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah, I got mixed up. He didn't respond that way. And he wasn't ready to do his duty. He wasn't ready to do his duty. He was looking just as confused and distraught and disturbed as before. So rather than appealing to him on the level of how the Jnana Kunda speaks, he's going to speak on the level of the Karma Kunda. Rather than approaching him from the level of knowledge, which he didn't respond to, he's going to approach him on the level of Karma Kunda, but now we switch to the other lens, the lens of clarity. Knowledge wasn't working, so he came to the level of duty. Duty. Yeah, duty. Okay, let's read those verses, 31 through 37. Considering your specific duty as a warrior, as a Kshatriya, you should know that there's no better engagement for you than fighting on dharmic principles, right? Religious principles. It's the best thing you can do. Best action you can do here, right? And so there's no need for hesitation. Well, what are you talking about? Well, come on, Arjuna. Happy are the warriors. Warriors get happy when these kind of warriors do get like that, do they not? They're ready to fight. They're waiting to fight. Right? They got that drive in them. And when they have something real to fight for. Isn't it true? You know people like that? Especially if they have something real to fight for. Something meaningful to fight for. Happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought. And on the karma kundic level, they open the doors to the heavenly planets. You ever see these movies about Vikings? What are they always saying? Like as they're running into battle? Valhalla. Death or Valhalla, right? Either we die or we go to Valhalla and go, or victory or Valhalla or something like that, right? Either we get victory or we die and go to Valhalla. We die and go to heaven, right? This is great, right? That's a warrior. You understand? That gives you a good picture if you've ever seen those kind of that Viking mentality, right? This is perfect. Either we're going to conquer this land and win, or if we die, that's even better, right? This is the way I want to die. I want to die with my sword in my hand. Then I go to Valhalla, right? So Arjuna, from the Vedic perspective, from the Karma Kanda perspective, this is a great opportunity. However, and then there's the contrast, the negative aspect if you don't fight, right? However, if you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sin for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. You're like a police officer that didn't step. I remember, and maybe some of you remember this, there was a school shooting in America, and they found that the police, they actually didn't really, they just kind of wimped out. They just, they weren't ready to give their lives to save those kids. You remember that? When they investigated it. Even some of the teachers are ready to give their lives to save the kids. But the police weren't. That's considered not understandable. That's actually considered shameful by people, right? You're a police officer. It's your duty to try to save these kids, even if it means losing your own life. That's the way Krishna is speaking to Arjuna now, right? People are going to talk about you. When you're supposed to step up and do your duty, you didn't do it. And then he's going to say, and that would be painful for you. That's even a little lower. It's not just saying you didn't do your duty and that's bad morally. It's saying, and you're going to suffer because of that, right? Obviously, you don't have this gyan. And if you don't have this gyan, you suffer when people criticize you, right? So he says, if, however, you do not perform your religious duty for fighting, then you will certainly incur sin. You get all kinds of bad karma for neglecting your duty, and you'll lose your reputation as a fighter. People will always speak of your infamy. And for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you, right? That idea, very soon, we're going to see Krishna speaking from he's going to step off, he's going to switch gears, step out of this preaching on the level of duty, and he's going to move it up to knowledge. He's going to step out of the level of karma kanda, he's going to switch gears to jnana kanda, and he's going to say a wise person has an even mind whether they're being praised or whether they're being blasphemed. Why aren't you like that, Arjuna? Why don't you be like that? Okay, but right here, he's almost appealing to him on the other level, right? Question? No? Okay. Finally, O son of Kunti, either you'll be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight. Do your duty, right? It's the right thing to do on any level right now. Okay, so that gives us we saw, let's go back to there we go. We've seen Arjuna's confusion. We've seen Krishna present jnanic knowledge, right? He present knowledge from the platform of jnana to see if that would appeal to Arjuna. It didn't. He came down a notch and started speaking verses that were encouraging him to do the same thing, but with a different motive, a less evolved motive, right? Do it to attain heaven. Do it because you don't want to suffer criticism, right? We're not going to get we'll hear taught from pretty much from this point on. I mean, I'll think carefully about it, but pretty much from this point on, he's not going to appeal to him on this level anymore, right? He's going to go up and up still higher to bhakti. But this is pretty much the end of this. There might be a verse or two that might be interpreted this way, but at the moment I can't think of any. From now on, he's going to start to criticize this mentality. He's going to, not that he should fight, but that you should be caught up in worldly, petty, temporary things. You're better than that, Arjuna. You can think on a higher level than that. So he's going to try to, a lot of jnana. Do your duty, but do it well informed with knowledge. Do it with matured knowledge. Do it absorbed in thinking about me, right? That's where this message is going to go. Okay, we're out of time for today. We're good? we didn't cover a lot of ground in the Gita, but maybe we covered a lot of ground conceptually today. You feel that way? You're good about this? I think it may help us a little bit, not quite, still a little cloudy. Good. That was a good thing? Okay. How you do it where? Or?
In our community, we
Acha. Oh, this is like, I say it's like this. Thank you. Okay, so tomorrow we have day off. You'll have a wonderful time if you choose to go to